and welcome to Your Coaching Journey, a podcast for doctors about coaching. Whether you're a coaching doctor, a doctor who is learning to coach, or a doctor who'd like to build coaching into your professional life, then this is the podcast for you. Hello, I'm Tom Dillon, and with me today is my co-host and business partner, Helen Leathers. Good morning, Helen. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderfully well, thank you very much.
Good.
Raring to go.
I was a bit worried you weren't going to turn up today.
Why?
Well, because you told me the topic was absence.
Very good. Very good. Very quick, although you've had a week to think about it.
Yep.
But no, I'm here.
Good.
On time, raring to go.
So...
And we're talking about absence, obviously. You've just told us what we're talking about. Yeah.
And it's an interesting word to bring to the coaching room. So what do you mean by it?
Well, I guess we could think of it in terms of the practical, is your coachee present or are they absent? So people might turn up late or might not turn up at all. So that's something we might have to contend with in the coaching room. But really what I'm thinking about more than that is maybe someone being distracted, detached, or avoiding something, or maybe you as the coach being distracted, detached, or avoiding something.
Right, yes. I wasn't sure if you were going with the coach or the coachee, but potentially both.
It could be both, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I think for the coach, particularly new coaches, I think an absence could be just lost in, oh my God, I've got to think of another question. Oh, what question are we going to, I don't know what question to ask. Oh, I've got lots of questions. It has to be an open question. Oh, I don't know where this is going. I don't know where this is going to, I don't know what to do with these people. So I think that suddenly you're absent from the coaching conversation in front of you.
Yes.
I always remember very early on in my coaching career, I went for an interview to do some coaching and was being observed by two people doing a coaching session. And they'd given me a glass of water, a plastic cup of water. And so the lady was telling me her situation that I was going to coach her on. And so I went to take a sip of water while she was talking. And as I picked the cup up, I noticed it shaking. I was obviously a little nervous. I'm being watched. And so my hand was shaking. And so my thoughts then went to, oh God, my hand's shaking. They're going to see my hand shaking. Oh God, they're going to know that I'm not really, And suddenly I was no longer listening to the person in front of me.
You were absent.
I was absent because of the stress of the situation, but I definitely wasn't paying attention to.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of coaches, particularly at the beginning of their coaching careers, they can just get lost in thoughts about the process rather, maybe just things taking them by surprise. So if suddenly someone starts talking about a topic that they hadn't thought they were going to talk about, that can suddenly throw the coach off and go, oh my God, I've never done this before. They're talking about confidence and I don't know how to coach someone around confidence.
Or it could be that they bring up a topic that they know lots about.
Yes.
Say something they really resonate with. And then they're thinking, I don't know how to deal with that for me. So how am I going to help this person manage it for them?
I was going to say, or they might well think, oh God, I know the answer to this. I'll just wait for them to stop thinking and then I can tell them my answer, which is probably not so much absence because that's just what they know in their head. But so lots of ways that as a coach, you can be absent. My supervisor Bob, I recall him in his used to retired from the business school now, but he used to be at Warwick Business School and have an office there. And I remember being sat in his office across the desk from him, having a supervision session, and he just glazed over. I was probably being very dull, but he'd just gone, and I could see he'd gone. And I coughed or something, or I don't know. I did something to bring him back, but he did come back, but he definitely wasn't there.
Thinking about something else.
Yeah. So I think that is going to happen occasionally for us as coaches, and maybe something like you say something they've said sparks a thought in us, and we go to a different place, or maybe we've entered the coaching room somewhere else anyway.
Yes.
So maybe there's stuff going on in our life that we've not parked. And so we've come into the coaching room with that in our head. So actually we're absent from the start. So I think that's something to think about, something to have a strategy for getting out of that headspace of focused on something else and bring yourself into the room to be present.
I think we have talked about in our episode on presence.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of doing the flip side of it. So there's going to be some commonality there in what we talk about. But yes, I definitely strategies to avoid being absent.
Sometimes we can feel like it's the coachee that is absent, that not that they're physically absent, but they're not really in the space with you either. The energy's flat, or perhaps they're just answering questions on autopilot.
Yeah, and it could be that that's the reason for their absence, is they're just very tired and not in the right place to have coaching.
Yeah.
Difficult when they're paid to be there. But
Yeah, I did once have a client turn up on a Zoom call and she's like, oh, I didn't sleep at all last night. This has been going on for me. And I just said, what's more useful to you? You've got this hour in your diary, an hour with me or an hour asleep. And she went, I need to sleep. And we rearranged the session. That was my choice because she was not going to be present.
yeah, allowable absence.
Yeah.
Permission to be absent for that one.
Yeah.
Good.
So when you notice that kind of absence in yourself or in the coachee, what do you tend to do?
I think if I notice it in myself, and I don't think it does happen so much. I'm very present with my coachees. I do focus on them and what's going on for them and what's going on physically for them. I'm taking it all in. So I think I am much more present. So not absent very often, but I think it is about just recognizing that you have gone and that you need to bring yourself back, and maybe breathing to come back into the room. Just that moment of awareness, just to shift back again. If it's the coachee that's absent, then I think just a gentle. I notice you seem a little distant just now. And what's going on for you? What's happening? Can just be a doorway for them back to being connected.
Yeah, that's lovely. And it's interesting because it brings us back to the core of transformational coaching, which is presence. And without that genuine presence, we can't create the kind of space that supports real change.
No, we talk a lot about presence of coaches, but obviously the coachee needs to show up as well. They need to be ready for the conversation. Otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere, is it, if they're not ready for it? And if we're present, then obviously we're attuned, we're empathetic, we're curious, open. And if we're absent, then it's much more of a transactional conversation.
Yeah.
So we lose the depth and energy that we would get from transformational coaching.
So we've briefly mentioned that the coachee might not be present or fully present. Sometimes it's just practical, as I said. Maybe they're exhausted, maybe they haven't slept. Sometimes they might be multitasking in their head, but sometimes it might be more psychological than that.
Yes. So no, I think that is a reason. Another reason for absence is just maybe some form of defensiveness, a way of avoiding what really needs to be talked about just because they feel uncomfortable about it. And obviously emotional stuff can quite often bring that reaction in coachees. So if they do go to an emotional place, they might just start to avoid that. So that's another form of absence, I think, is the avoiding of what really needs to be talked about.
Like an emotional away day.
Yes.
I suppose in that sense, absence is actually data for us. It's information about what's happening deep beneath the surface, in the way that emotions are data. Avoiding emotions is also data.
Yeah, and obviously you've got to be pretty attuned as the coach. So you need not to be absent so that you notice that subtlety, the nuances of their communication, so you can pick up on, okay, there's something here that's not being said, or we've gone to a place that isn't where we wanted to go, and it feels like you're not showing up anymore. So just being able to do that, I think, can be, but so you've got to be there with them and picking up on everything, all the nonverbal stuff as well as what's being said.
So what might you do then as a coach when you sense that kind of protective absence?
Are they not rushed to fix it? I think acknowledging it. So that, as I said before, you seem to be further away from this than you were before. How are you feeling about this? What's going on for you? That sort of question. And then give them space to explore it. Not rushing to fill the space as well. So that silence, when there is a silence in the room, I think quite often that is a place of presence and allowing for that to emerge and not rushing to fill it. Because if they've gone to a place of thinking about why they're not thinking about emotions or what they're avoiding, if we suddenly fill the space, we're not giving them the respect to think for themselves, are we?
Absolutely. And I think there's that that's the difference. Presence isn't about us speaking all the time.
No.
And absence isn't about silence.
Yeah, no, I think presence is very much about just taking it all in, isn't it? Taking everything you possibly can, and that constant calibration of what is going on for the client. And I noticed a coachee that was coaching last week in person. So I sat in the same room as him, and I don't know whether I normally don't see his legs, but for some reason I could see his legs. We're kind of on the corner of a desk or something, and his leg just started tapping, not just shaking on he's got one leg across the other, and his leg just started shaking. Now it's really useful to notice that and to be able to, I noticed that's happening. What's going on for you? But you've got to be in the room to notice that sort of thing.
It's very Gestalt.
Very Gestalt, yes. And Gestalt is all about that contact, being present, but then withdrawing from that presence. And there's kind of a flow to that. So it may be a particular topic that someone is talking about that they're done. So they withdraw and we move on to something else. So that flow of conversation is something to be aware of, because there is a natural withdrawal when people have come to the end of what they wish to discuss. That's not absence, that's just a natural conversation flow.
Yeah. So in transactional analysis terms, absence might show up as the coachee moving into perhaps adapted child state, perhaps withdrawing to avoid disapproval or conflict.
Yes, and so that's good. Sort of link into transactional analysis that we probably need to consider whether the coachee is going to that maybe adapted child place because we're being a parent.
Yes.
We're showing up in a way that's not helpful to them, and we've triggered some sort of response in them, maybe a frustration in them. Maybe they have a sense of wanting to rescue the conversation, so that rescuer role for them. Maybe a sense of failure for them because it's not going how we want it to go. So there's ways of us showing up in the coaching room that might push them to become absent.
Yeah.
We have to be conscious of that.
Yeah, be very aware of our own presence. And that brings us quite neatly to the idea of mutual absence, where both people drift away, perhaps very subtly mirroring each other or not so subtly mirroring each other.
Yeah, it's funny, I mentioned Bob earlier, and I remember him talking about a client. I don't know whether it's real or whether he just made the story up, but I've heard him tell it several times. So, well, anyway, but he was talking about someone he was coaching, and whenever he talked about a particular topic in the coaching room, Bob had the feeling of being very bored by the topic.
Right.
And he says that he, at some point, mentioned this to the coachee. He said, I notice when you talk about this, I find myself feeling slightly bored by the conversation, which is quite a brave place to go, isn't it? If you are going to say that out loud. And the guy said, yeah, I feel exactly the same way about that topic. I don't know why I talk about it, but because I am bored by it. So there was that kind of parallel processing of the topic of the conversation. So great when you are noticing things like that coming up to be able to take that to supervision, if there are patterns to it, because useful to recognise.
Absolutely. And it's also interesting how absence can appear at different stages of the coaching journey. Early on, it might be about uncertainty, mistrust, not knowing if coaching can work, perhaps, for you. Later, it could be about resistance or maybe fatigue on the topic.
Yeah, it's funny, we've not actually mentioned that yet. So mistrust is definitely a reason why someone might be absent as a coachee, that they are talking around the issue without telling you what they truly feel because you're new to them. They don't know whether they can trust you or not. They don't know who you're reporting back to. They don't trust the confidentiality of the space. So that might be another reason for them being absent in the conversation, that trust, that rapport hasn't quite built yet. So that's definitely something at the beginning.
Or they're testing coaching itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They might think, well, I have no idea
what is this nonsense?
How is this going to help? We're just talking. But yes, so later, I mean, it could be resistance. And again, sometimes within the coaching room, we're moving from the talking to someone taking action and doing something about the situation to improve the situation they've got. and they're not really wanting to take the action because that requires effort, or, there might be some emotional, psychological barriers to them taking the effort. And if we've not addressed those, then we might well find there's some resistance to that, or just some weariness around it, that they don't want to do it. So that's another way of being absent, is talking in hypothetical terms about what could happen. But then when push comes to shove, it just doesn't. So again, something to address, I think. And also, obviously, there is a point perhaps in the coaching where it's coming to an end. There's a sense of closure. So people are winding down and maybe not really showing up because they know the coaching is almost over. They're just seeing it out. Hopefully that's not the case, but it could be. So that if we know a coaching relationship is coming to an end, maybe we as coaches need to give some thought to how the coachee could get the most out of the final sessions without the feeling of it just petering out.
Yeah, that's something useful to think about. And we've done a previous podcast on ending a coaching relationship. So if our listeners are thinking about how to do that, maybe that's a good one to go back to. So sometimes absence is a transition between.
It could be a coming to an end. It could be that transition into no longer having coaching.
Yeah.
So that they really are absent then.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The final absence.
So I think what's really helpful to think about is staying that sense of compassion, kindness, love in the coaching room. If someone is absent, not being judgmental about that, but just recognise it's going to happen from time to time. So if it does happen, just treating it gently and just let's see where that goes. Be curious about it. Love and curiosity in the coaching room. Just be gentle, be curious. I really wish when Bob had disappeared in my supervision session that I'd gone, Bob, you seem to have gone somewhere else. just to address it. Because looking back on it, I think I was slightly, you're not here. Am I being boring?
And it might not have been about you at all.
Might not have been about me. Might have something really big going on for him.
So we put a lot of emphasis on presence, but I think sometimes we need to hold that more lightly. And if presence can return, absence can be a useful signpost in some way.
Yes, I still want, if we're saying about how to be effective as a coach, I would like to think that we are present
absolutely
most of the time, but there are going to be, occasions where it drifts. But having an awareness of that, and maybe doing some self-reflection on why that came up as you do your reflection on your coaching. Think about times that you were absent and what the cause was, and how, what strategies you could have to bring yourself back.
So, do you think absence ever has something to teach us as coaches about our own boundaries or needs?
Well, certainly if you're not showing up in a resourced way, that's definitely teaching you something about the boundaries, and maybe not having running coaching sessions when you are under-resourced. Thinking about how you get yourself into a state for coaching.
Yeah.
So if you're rushing around like a mad thing and suddenly coming into a coaching room, you might not have taken the time and space to collect yourself and arrive and be present. So yeah, definitely there's some, and certainly in terms of thinking about what we do when someone isn't present for whatever reason, whether that's vulnerability, defensiveness, all the things we've just talked about.
Yeah.
What strategies do we have for dealing with that? Because there's no good just sitting there going, well, they're not here. Don't know what to do. So yeah, reflecting and coming up with some strategies is really good.
So it sounds like absence can also be that early warning system for burnout or compassion fatigue.
Yes, if you are, and obviously this applies to doctors who coach. So if you are a busy doctor and you're getting that sort of compassion fatigue in your work, it's probably going to spill over into the coaching as well. So obviously within the coaching, we're giving lots of emotional energy to the person in front of us. Our focus is very much on them, and that can be exhausting. So in terms of how many coaching sessions you do a day, I probably wouldn't do more than 3 coaching sessions a day because I know I don't have the energy for it. Other people might have more energy, but knowing your energy levels and what boundaries you put in place for that can be really useful, I think, just to make sure that when you are in the coaching room, you are not absent.
Yes, because that sustained presence takes energy.
Yeah. And if you notice you are being absent, then think about that and think about how you're going to address that.
It's such an important point there. I think coaching presence isn't just about focusing on someone else. It's also about being really anchored in ourselves.
Yeah, so it's about self-awareness, being grounded. So if you are grounded, you can be with whatever shows up, including someone else's absence.
So maybe the question isn't how do I stop absence, but how do I notice and work with it?
Exactly. So I think sometimes it can be a doorway to a deeper conversation. If we notice the absence and actually flag it up and address it in a gentle way, but just sometimes that can be, it's noticing what we notice, isn't it? In a very Gestalt way.
Yeah.
I'm noticing this. What's going on?
So whilst we want coaches to be absolutely present, to hold that space, absence can be a really interesting indicator. It can bring up a conversation. It can help us explore things and re-engage with coaching. And maybe we'll discover something new as a result of absence when there should be presence.
I think it's that being realistic about it, isn't it? That we are not going to be present 100% of the time. There are going to be times when we drift. There are going to be times when the coachee drifts. There are going to be times when the coachee is being defensive or evasive, avoidant. And that's really interesting coaching territory to explore. If it's about us and us being absent at times, doing that self-reflection and thinking about why that happened, and then, let's say, having strategies for addressing that if it starts to happen again. But just being very conscious of it and recognizing it is part and parcel of having conversations with people, that sometimes we're not going to be there.
Yeah. But how can we bring it back?
Yes.
How can we gently bring it back? Not necessarily by effort, but by attention. Thank you for that. That was very interesting. Next time we will be very present and we will be talking to one of our coaching doctors, Dr. Era.
I will be.
You will
I think
be.
I'm talking to Era, who is in Australia. So that's going to be interesting. I think I've got to get up very early to talk to her.
Have you?
I don't think I set my boundaries right. I think she said, this time, and I agreed. And I thought, bugger, that's very early in the morning. But it's in the diary now anyway. So
Well, lovely to
an early start. I should have to put some makeup on.
It's okay. It's not a video. So, oh no, it will
is
be
a video. It's an interview.
Yeah.
To do something. I'll look awful that time in the morning. Maybe have very dimmed lighting. Anyway, that's what we will be doing next time.
Excellent.
So we will say bye for now.
Bye
if you've
for now.
enjoyed listening to our podcast, do subscribe. Do give us a 5-star rating on the podcast platform of your choice, and tell all your friends and neighbours about us. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.